Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening from wherever you're watching or listening. My name is Caleb Glick. I'm a lawyer here in the great state of Texas with the Calhoun School of Law to bring you a lot of information plenty of bad folks would rather you not have. Today we're going to be providing another installation into our Anti-Federalist Papers series going on number 8. So if you haven't gone back and watched 1 through 7, I would highly encourage you to do so because understanding both the arguments for, as articulated in the Federalist Papers, and the arguments against ratifying the U.S. Constitution will provide you a holistic understanding of the U.S. Constitution. And of course, understanding the U.S. Constitution in its totality is absolutely necessary if you plan to combat any sort of lawfare waged against you, your loved ones, or your hard-earned property. Okay, so let's go ahead and skip on over to the Anti-Federalist Papers. Like I said, we're going on to number 8. There are multiple institutions from which you can get a paper and digital copy of the Anti-Federalist Papers. Get both formats. While you're out there looking, go ahead and pick up a paper and digital copy, I almost said format, copy of the Federalist Papers if you haven't already. Okay. Number 8 is titled, "The Power Vested in Congress of Sending Troops for Suppressing Insurrections Will Always Enable Them to Stifle the First Struggles of Freedom." A federal Republican from Virginia had his letter to the editor appear in the Norfolk and Portsmouth Register March 5th, 1788. By the Articles of Confederation, the Congress of the United States was vested with powers for conducting the common concerns of the continent. They had the sole and exclusive right and power of determining on peace and war, of sending and receiving ambassadors, of entering into treaties and alliances, and of pointing out the respective quotas of men and men which each state should furnish. But it was expressly provided that the money to be supplied by each state should be raised by the authority and direction of the legislature thereof, thus reserving to the states the important privilege of levying taxes upon their citizens in such manner as might be most conformable to their peculiar circumstances and form of government. With powers thus constituted, was Congress enabled to unite the general exertions of the continent in the cause of liberty, and to carry us triumphantly through a long and bloody war. It was not until some time after peace and a glorious independence had been established that defects were discovered in that system of federal government which had procured to us those blessings. It was then perceived that the Articles of Confederation were inadequate to the purposes of the Union, and it was particularly suggested as necessary to vest in Congress the further power of exclusively regulating the commerce of the United States, as well to enable us by a system more uniform to counteract the policy of foreign nations, as for other important reasons. Upon this principle, a general convention of the United States was proposed to be held, and deputies were accordingly appointed by 12 of the states charged with power to revise, alter, and amend the Articles of Confederation. When these deputies met, instead of confining themselves to the powers with which they were entrusted, they pronounced all amendments to the Articles of Confederation wholly impracticable. Go ahead and highlight that part real quick for me. When these deputies met, they rendered all amendments to the Articles impracticable, and with a spirit of amity and concession truly remarkable, proceed to form a government entirely new, and totally different in its principles and its organization. Instead of a Congress whose members couldn't serve but 3 years out of 6, and then to return to a level with their fellow citizens, and who were liable at all times whenever the states might deem it necessary to be recalled. Yes, the states could recall, for any reason, at any time, the delegates sent to the U.S. government, or the representatives sent to the U.S. government. To be recalled, Congress by this new Constitution will be composed of a body whose members, during the time they are appointed to serve, can receive no check from their constituents. Instead of the powers formerly granted to Congress of ascertaining each state's quota of men, and money to be raised by the legislatures of the different states in such a mode as they might think proper, Congress by this new government will be vested with the formidable powers of raising armies, notice, plural, not singular. We're not supposed to have the U.S. Army, we're not supposed to have the U.S. Marine Corps, we're not supposed to have the U.S. National Guard, Border Patrol, all of this garbage. Armies, plural, they're supposed to disband, and lending money totally independent of the different states. They will moreover have the power of leading troops among you in order to suppress those struggles which may sometimes happen among a free people, and which tyranny will impiously brand with the name of sedition. That sounds very familiar. On one day, the state collector will call on you for your proportion of those taxes which have been laid on you by the General Assembly, where you are fully and adequately represented. On the next will come the Continental Collector to demand from you those taxes which shall be levied by the Continental Congress, where the whole state of Virginia will be represented by only 10 men. Thus shall we imprudently confer on so small a number the very important power of taking our money out of our pockets and of levying taxes without control. A right which the wisdom of our state constitution will in vain have confided to the most numerous branch of the legislature. Good grief. Should the sheriff or state collector in any manner aggrieve you either in person or property, these sacred rights are amply secured by the most solemn compact. Beside, the arm of government is always at hand to shield you from his injustice and oppression. But if a continental collector, in the execution of his office, should invade your freedom, according to this new government which has expressly declared itself paramount to all state laws and constitutions, the state of which you are a citizen, notice how he doesn't say you're a citizen of the Union, you're not a citizen of the Confederacy, you're only a citizen of your state. The state of which you are a citizen will have no authority to afford you relief. A continental court may, indeed, be established in the state, and it may be urged that you will find a remedy here. But, my fellow citizens, let me ask, what protection this will afford you against the insults or rapacity of a continental officer when he will have it in his power to appeal to the seat of Congress, perhaps at several hundred miles distance, and by this means oblige you to expend hundreds of pounds in obtaining redress for 20 shillings unjustly extorted? Thus, will you be necessarily compelled either to make a bold effort to extricate yourselves from these grievous and oppressive extortions, or you will be fatigued by fruitless attempts into the quiet and peaceable surrender of those rights for which the blood of your attempts into the quiet and reread the same line, for which the blood of your fellow citizens has been shed in vain. But the latter will, no doubt, be the melancholy fate of a people once inspired with the love of liberty, as the power vested in Congress of sending troops for suppressing insurrections will always enable them to stifle the first struggles of freedom. A federal Republican. Good grief. So if the condemnation of standing armies wasn't made clear enough in the Federalist Papers, which it was overtly stated, repeatedly stated, then there's the total condemnation from the Anti-Federalist, or an Anti-Federalist. If you have any questions about what was said in Anti-Federalist paper number 8, or about the preceding papers, or maybe even a topic you'd like me to cover in a future lecture, go ahead and post those in the comments, because the entire purpose of the Calhoun School of Law is to provide you with the necessary skills and information to combat any sort of lawfare attacks that will be waged against you, your family, or your property. So if you have any questions at all, please post them down in the comments. Excellent. So my name is Caleb Glick. I'm a lawyer here in the great state of Texas with the Calhoun School of Law to bring you a lot of information that plenty of bad folks would rather you not have. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and if not, while you're down in the comments, let me know how I can do better so I can best serve that purpose of helping you. I hope you'll have a wonderful day, and I'm not sure what the topic for the next lecture is going to be, but I'll do my best to make it as informative and entertaining as this one, if not more so, regardless of the topic of the next lecture. Until I see y'all then, I bid you all farewell.